Greetings petrolheads, welcome back to Automation the Car Company Tycoon game. Today I'm gonna be doing another review. It's been a while since I've done one. It is going to be the K1 sent in by George the Greek, and I'm gonna read out real quick what he said. Here is my 1999 to 2001 Kopos K1. It's like a premium hatchback like the Audi A3. The Project Agro is an all-out all-wheel drive off-road machine, just like the 4x4 version of the Fiat Panda. However, it is based on the idea of Agrotica vehicle, light rear-wheel drive pickup truck, very popular in Greece in the end of the 20th century, and even now. While the other versions are base and premium without any more special characteristics. Okay, so what we have here is basically a luxury, you could say crossover, maybe even an SUV. We'll just get into, we'll just open one of them, the Project Agro first, because this is apparently the most characteristic one. Oh, it is actually a hatchback like this. Let's see what it's made of. So it is a monocoque with corrosion-resistant steel chassis and also panels. Then the engine is placed transversely with McPherson's up front and a wishbone suspension on the rear. Pretty simple, pretty standard for the late 90s and early 2000s, I would say. Looks are also like very simplistic on this version. And the taillights are kind of nice, but wait, does this car not have exhaust? Yeah, I'm sure he must have just forgot it, but it's fine. Like, you can always slap some on there later. So the Project Agro is, wait, there are fixtures on this car that require a mod that I don't have, huh? Like, what mods are you using? I got pretty much everything that's on the workshop, so, well, I don't know. This is all-wheel drive though. Let's not get too carried away by the fixtures. So it is a cast iron inline 4 with a single overhead cam and 3 valves per cylinder. It's kind of an interesting setup that also was quite popular back then in the early 2000s. I remember even an AMG model had a 3 valve per cylinder setup. I can't remember which one it was, whether it was the C36 AMG, I don't know, or was it the C55 or the CLK 55? I have no idea. Can't remember. So it's got VVL though, which for 2001 is kind of advanced, but still fine. We got the cast iron crank with I-beam steel conrods and forged pistons. Pretty expensive materials. Good for durability, good for revving it out. Even though the rev limit seems to be pretty low, and that is because of the very high stroke that we have. 9.3 to 1 compression ratio, very low cam profile, lots of torque down low, and not very much in the higher RPMs. It is nice to have a very usable rev band on a naturally aspirated engine though. And we got multi-point injection with a single configuration and standard intake, so that is like pretty much normal. It's nothing too fancy. Premium gas, just because it's standard here in Middle Europe. 13.5 fuel mixture is actually kind of rich for what I suppose is probably an eco car, or at least this is probably more of the eco version of this car. 5600 RPM limit seems totally fine. And then we got tubular headers, plenty of exhaust diameter, no catalytic converter in 2001. That's gonna make the scoring interesting in Gasmia, because I think the catalytic converter was mandatory by 1980 something, I guess. And the reverse flow muffler, only one of them, and no other muffler, so it should also be relatively loud. 47.7. Yeah. Transmission wise, we have a 4-speed manual, which is kind of interesting for 2001. Also, the top speed of 115 kilometers an hour seems a little bit low for a power level of what, 122 horsepower. Also, the fuel octane is not used up, as we see, 90.6, whereas we can go up to 95. And the top speed is very much too low, I would say. If we crank that up to like what it suggests, 205, something around here, you see that all of our stats have improved, except for the 0 to 100 kilometers an hour acceleration time, but we can change that by gearing it differently. Okay, wheel spin also went down considerably. Economy went down, well, but it was down here. Okay. 205's front and rear with a low top speed like this seems kind of dubious. I don't know, like 122 horsepower isn't all that much. 205s are fine, but probably not really necessary. Steel rims, off-road tires. So this is, after all, an off-road focused vehicle. Solid discs and drums on the rear. Man, this is cheap. This is a very cheaply made car. The cooling is way too low, which affects our reliability, 49.3. If we crank that up a little bit, we get 1.9 instead of what were we at? I think that's where we were. 49.3. Yeah, this is like definitely too low. And off-road skid tray. The problem with the cooling is just that the engine might overheat, and depending on, you know, where you take your car off-road, if it's somewhere in the desert, then, you know, obviously it's gonna overheat in no time. 4 seats with basic interior and basic CD, so this definitely is the cheaper version of this car. No traction or stability control. You probably don't need it. It would increase drivability though. By how much? Actually more than 5 points. Damn, that's a lot. A basic 90s safety is also like kind of questionable, because in the early 2000s, like, you never wanna be behind the curve unless it's a car that's meant to be just as cheap as possible, which this seems to be. But then we have hydro-pneumatic springs, which are not very cheap. You can see that the material cost for the hydro-pneumatic springs are 518 and a little bit, whereas for standard springs it's 19.44, so it's almost $500 more expensive than a standard spring, which again does not make this all that cheap. Although the total costs are 8,400. What's the suggested retail price? 17,160. For an off-road vehicle is pretty cheap. Texas emissions in 1981. How many emissions are we making? 2,357. That might affect this. Total tax cost. Yeah. What if we put a cat on here? Let's say a standard freeway cat. Then you see that the total tax costs have decreased by more than $200. And that's quite a difference, I would say. So there's definitely some more work you can do even on this base model. Even if it's meant to be cheap, you can still optimize it a little bit further. But there are 2 more versions. So that is the Comfort. Also, this is a pretty different look to it, with some vents here and a grill down here that is different, and also a main grill on the top, some chrome on the sides, and also different taillights, and a little spoiler, a little wing, and exhaust finally. So engine wise, what do we have here? This is a 1.6 liter inline 4, which is kind of strong for its displacement. Hypertectic cast pistons. I don't know why he chose these, but while the emissions are very low, so that's one reason, but I think that going for forged pistons would have been better here for reliability. No, actually not. Wouldn't do anything to the reliability. Also, here we have a much higher bore than stroke, so we can rev this engine higher than with a higher stroke than bore. 70 cam profile. We also have VVL. How many? It's a dual overhead cam with 4 valves per cylinder and aluminum block and head, so that's like a huge upgrade. The crank is still cast iron, and conrods for some reason are forged H-beam. Well, doesn't make a difference either way, I guess. What else do we have? 70 cam profile, 90 VVL profile. That's very aggressive. Still no turbos. Multi-point injection, throttle per cylinder, and performance intake. Now this is something you would put on an all-out sports car. This kind of setup. 30.2 fuel mixture is also kind of rich. A freeway cat and 2 reverse flow mufflers. Like this seems to make less and less sense, because usually, like if it's a sports engine, you wouldn't want to put 2 reverse flow mufflers on it, because if it's a sports engine, you want to hear it. Also, we have a kind of restrictive exhaust. Yeah, it would be better if we increase the size just a little bit. But if it's a comfortable engine, then it shouldn't be this aggressive, and it shouldn't be this. Yeah, it just shouldn't be tuned the way that it is. You would prefer a more torque down low, and also, you know, just a little bit more torque down low, a little bit more economy, a little bit more. I don't know how to put it, but this seems to make a little less sense the further you go on. However, wait, this is still all-wheel drive, isn't it? It is front-wheel drive with a 5-speed automatic with a pretty appropriate top speed and an open differential. Then we have medium tires, medium powered road tires, 205s front and rear, just like on the other version. Alloy rims for a little bit more prestige. Solid discs up front and rear. A little bit of brake fade actually. I didn't look whether or not the other version had brake fade. It's my mistake. This does very well in the city premium department though. We can already see that. Semi-clad under tray. So this is no more off-road vehicle. This is not focused on off-roading anymore. 5 seats with premium interior, standard CD and standard 90 safety. And we also have all driver assists here, which is very nice, giving us a lot of drivability. 62.8 is really good. Then we have standard springs, adaptive dampers and passive sway bars. And what appears to be a pretty comfortable setup here, with a lot of ride height, no bottoming out. The roll angle could be a little bit lower, but this is not really a sports car. It's relatively light though for all this equipment. So let's see. Detail stats. Running costs are significantly lower. The tax costs. Fuel economy. What about the fuel economy? 12. Excuse me? This is. I think, like the devs have repeatedly, how do I say this? The devs have adjusted the economy calculations a couple of times over the past years. I think the most recent one, a month ago or so, maybe even a little bit more, that went a little bit too far, I think. I think now cars are using quite a bit more fuel than they should, realistically speaking. Especially like, this car is pretty light. It is not very aerodynamic though, is it? Well, that's fine. 0.72 is not too bad. And it's a 1.6 liter engine. Why does this use 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers? Costs 19,100. Not too bad. Just trying to think of how much a Golf GTI of that year would have cost. Probably more than that. But is it as fast as a Golf GTI? No. No, it isn't. And it's also not designed to be as fast. It's more about the comfort here, which is very good. 40.1, excuse me. 43.3 safety. So premium budget, yeah, you see, it's actually quite good here as well. A relatively affordable and a reliable, comfortable, safe and prestigious car with good drivability. Excuse me, 50.8 affordability on a premium car that costs less than $20,000? That doesn't really seem right. But in any case, there's one more version, and that is the Lux. I'm assuming that's a very luxurious one. We can see that the fixtures have changed a little bit. There are these indicators here, some vents there. This hasn't changed very much though, but the wing is gone. And let's see. This is all-wheel drive. It's a 1.5 liter engine. Oh, just 100cc lower from the other engine that we just saw. 173 horsepower from a 1.5 liter. still the hypertactic cast business, but now we are getting some reliability issues. If you pick forged ones, those are gone, and if you pick I-beam steel conrods, that's gone. So the reliability would go up to 69.4 from 67 on flat. That's not too bad. Good, let's move on. This is still dual overhead cam with 4 volts per cylinder and VVL. Just a little reminder. 90 cam profile and 94 VVL profile. So this is basically as aggressive as a race engine. I don't know why, but well, it is what it is. Very high compression ratio, but not high enough. You can still go higher. Multi-point injection, still product per cylinder, performance intake 13:1 fuel mixture, 8300 RPM limit. High flow free cat, 2 reverse flow mufflers, and again only tubular headers. Why not long tubular? They save weight, give a little bit of extra power. They don't cost very much more, and they increase the they improve the economy slightly as well. So I think you should go for long tubular. But in any case, what do we have here? A 6-speed manual gearbox, an electric LSD. Oh, and 100% of the power goes to the front. I think you might have overlooked that. Sports tires, 225s all around, alloy wheels, 17-inch rims. Kind of interesting. Vented discs with 6 pistons up front and 4 pistons rear. No brake plate this time, lots of weight. Downforce on the tray. That's interesting. I would have gone for a fully clad. But in any case, cooling airflow is too low. That means also reliability is lower. 5 seats with handmade interior, luxury, CD entertainment, all driver assist except launch control, and advanced safety. You also have a +3 quality on the interior, +4 on the entertainment, and +5 on the safety. So this is going to be one expensive car. It's got hydropneumatic springs, twin tube dampers, passive slurry bars, but also we have bottoming out in spite of the fact that we have a lot of ride height. 1709 so 1710 kilograms is quite a lot for a small hatchback like this. It's also not very fast, despite the fact that we have what is basically almost a race engine in here. What if we do this? That would actually make it slower from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, interestingly enough. Why does this make it faster? Oh, you see? I've got proof that rear drive makes you faster off the line than front wheel drive. Look at this, 9.9%. Oh, not percent. 9.9 seconds from 0 to 100 if you go for 100% on rear wheel drive. And 10.1 if we go for only front wheel drive. and then of course a 10.4 for anything in between. But better traction, better drivability, and better utility, better off-road. Yeah, just, I mean, it's your choice what setup you go for. I'm just saying all-wheel drive makes for the best overall usability of the power. Front-wheel drive is faster than all-wheel drive, I guess, but rear-wheel drive is fastest and sportiest. So what about the markets here? It falls into the luxury category, but it's not very competitive here. Why? Comfort, prestige, safety, and durability. So the prestige is probably not very high. 28.9 is not bad, but at the same time, it's only a small 4-cylinder. That is not very prestigious. Of course, I know that this engine bay doesn't really allow for an inline 6 or a V8 or anything. Probably a V6 though, if I had to guess. Overall, I can't really recommend these cars because they seem to make less and less sense. Whereas were the most sensible, if you will, car would be the very cheap one. Because if you want a cheap off-roader, then I could really see this one. If you optimize it a little bit more, I could really see this one being pretty good. But it is just so thirsty. You should really rework those engines. Maybe put a V6 in there with a little bit more displacement, but also detuned a little bit more. Or just try and use your fuel octane here. You got 90.6 that you're using, but you can use 95. So if you go up here all the way, you will see that not only we gain some power, but we also gain some economy. Wait, 378.7 compared to 396.7. So that should make quite a difference. It's 10.5. We were at 12.7 liters. Now we're at 11.9 basically. So that makes a difference. Oh wait, what have I done? There we are. Okay. Yes, so I could see this being pretty okay if you want a cheap off-roader, a cheap 4x4. But other than that, the others two just don't convince me. I'm sorry. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please click the like button, helps out a great deal. Subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.